This is how I expect the property market to look for each of the markets around Australia. Sydney, I think it's in for a bit of a bumpy ride. People go crazy over Sydney property when there's a boom on, but when there's a crash, it comes back the other way. I think Melbourne is in the same boat. There's a little bit of oversupply in certain parts of Melbourne as well. So overall, I think Melbourne is going to be in for a bit of a bumpy ride in the next 12 months. Brisbane, I think, although people are talking about Brisbane coming off the boil, sure, there's markets that are coming back in Brisbane and southeast Queensland, but there's still plenty of markets outperforming the generic status quo. So I think Brisbane will actually do quite well in the next 12 months. And by quite well, it'll have some really modest growth. It's not going to have the 20% growth that people are used to during COVID. I think Adelaide is still poised for some good growth. I think it'll perform similar to Brisbane. I think Perth will be in the same boat. We're not going to see the massive growth, but I do think we're going to see maybe overall 5%, maybe 10% growth in those markets. So Brisbane, Adelaide, and Perth. As for Melbourne and Sydney, I don't think that we're going to see those growth markets. I think it's probably going to be overall maybe negative 5%, I think. And that's based on the data and the statistics that I look at and what's happening across the board with interest rates rising, affordability levels coming back, and the markets that I talk about increasing in value still have a huge amount of affordability. And Queensland especially has a lot of interstate migrations. It's got the most interstate migration that we've seen on record, and the property prices here in Brisbane or southeast Queensland corner are a lot cheaper than our fellow Sydney counterparts that are coming up. They can spend half the amount of money and get the same house here in southeast Queensland. So of course there's that affordability in Queensland. The regional areas, unfortunately, I think are going to take a bit of a dive because they went crazy during COVID. So I think a lot of regional areas are going to start to feel some pain, especially where there's been oversupply in those markets. That's my prediction over the next 12 months for property around Australia.